because I don't want people to, hear it from a secondhand source. People call it hearsay, whatever. Though I have some firsthand knowledge, I eventually talk about someday. I'm trying to get it cleared, but it's like, who, what, when, where, why, where the shit is, who's in control of it, what are the cover programs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and that's what deemed my complaint credible and urgent in July 2022, which is my complaint, yes, was about reprisal too. I filed that separately eventually to the Department of Defense Inspector General. That's an ongoing investigation, but it was my congressional oversight UAP crash retrieval allegations that was deemed credible and urgent. It was sent to the Director of National Intelligence, and then it was sent to the Congressional Intelligence Committees around that time, July of 2022. But I provided total about 11 and a half to 12 hours of classified testimony to the congressional staffers and their lawyers for both the House.
This is obviously very compartmentalized, where
Yes.
there's only a few people that know about this information and they're not allowed to discuss it with other people.
Mm-hmm.
When did this all start? I mean, is this out of Roswell? Is it predate that? Like when did they first realize that there are things that cannot be explained or can't be explained through conventional means?
Yeah, I mean, the program goes back a ways. The precise beginning of it, I can't talk about, but I did, because of security stuff, but I did talk about publicly the 1933 retrieval. Pope Pius XII and the Vatican were involved, back channeling it through the OSS, which became the CIA later, to FDR. And that's how the U.S. knew something weird happened in Italy right before World War II. But
so this is 33 was the first documented.
That is the earliest one I can talk about. Yeah.
There's something that predates that?
You could infer that.
You could infer that.
Yeah.
Okay. So they bring it somewhere in the United States. And was the attempt to try to back engineer this thing? Was the attempt to try to understand what it was?
Yeah, I mean, first of it, obviously, it's understanding the situation, right? What do we have our hands on? And like I've said in some other videos and stuff, we took the Manhattan Project secrecy and overlaid it on this issue because that secrecy worked well for atomic bomb developments and whatnots. And certainly this whole program in a nutshell, if I were to summarize the 90 plus years of history, it is a reverse engineering program to garner some kind of insight. And of course, not a lot of the things that we've learned from it are directly, ripped off the technology we found, but it has inspired other innovations that made its way into other U.S. classified programs over the year for national defense reasons, and it's a myriad of different things. So.
Well, this is essentially one of the very early ones, 1933. Mm-hmm. How many crash retrieval incidents have there been?
It is double digit. The specific numbers I do know, however, I can't discuss that. I know it sounds like, I'm being coy or whatever, but this show, any other interviews I do, right? Foreign intelligence services are watching, and it's like, I'm not here to help Russia and China calibrate their intelligence collection. In spring 2021, I actually flew with a couple colleagues of mine to Las Vegas, and I met with Senator Harry Reid about 9 months before he died. What does Harry Reid actually know? Why did he, give $21 million to DIA and Bigelow Aerospace for this? And he straight up says, he's like, yeah, I knew we had UFO material. I was denied access for decades. I tried to get access. And then he explained some of his efforts during OSAP. And I was like, holy shit, did the former majority leader just say, did he just confirm this to me as well? I was already talking to these amazing high-level people, but I have Harry Reid literally saying, yes, we have material, and, he knew it was non-human. On behalf of me, he had a weekly call with President Joe Biden at the time, and he straight up said to me he was going to talk to President Biden about this issue, literally. And, Harry Reid, God bless his soul, made this disclosure a couple weeks after we met in the New Yorker, and you can look this up, I think it was like a May 2021 New Yorker story where he says, I knew for decades, and he made this disclosure, not me, so I'm going to say the name of the contractor. Harry Reid said this. We knew that Lockheed Martin had this material for decades. I tried to get access and I was denied. And specifically with the Lockheed Martin stuff, he was talking about during the OSAP program. And for the people who are on this program, I submitted this shit to DOPSR, got this cleared, so don't freak out, but I'm telling the truth here. So Lockheed Martin wanted to divest itself from this material at a specific facility that's known to me that I provided to the Inspector General. Like street address, all that shit, right? And the idea was if they made a catcher's mitt, a security catcher's mitt for this shit, most serious SAP possible, the contractor and the other government customer, which was the Central Intelligence Agency, for that specific Lockheed material, and it was shit that they recovered from like the 50s and stuff, and it was like bits and pieces of like hull structure, shit like that, and so they were going to tech transfer it, and the $21 or $22 million was actually for Bigelow Aerospace to build out, facilities in Las Vegas and material analysis equipment. And I saw the staff meeting slides, I saw the paperwork. Like there's a paperwork trail I've seen on this shit, and I talked to the people involved in this program, and even Jim Lakatsky, who ran the program. Who's a retired DIA officer, PhD in engineering, even made this disclosure in his book, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, page 152 to 153. And he also made a disclosure a couple of weeks ago, I think it was on Weaponized podcast with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, where he's like, yeah, we had a whole craft and we broke into the hull and we gained access. And he ran that through the same, security process as I did. And so Jim Lakatsky, who ran this program, is also going on the record.
Knowing that our adversaries were aware of this reverse engineering program, are we aware of their reverse engineering programs?
Yeah.
Which countries have
you could probably guess.
Okay. Yeah, the big ones.
And you wouldn't be it won't be too shocking.
Okay.
But I won't acknowledge what the US may know.
Right. So are we aware of numbers in terms of like at least a rough estimate of how many are available to these other?
Yeah.
How many?
I can't, that's like super
but there's
sensitive.
more than one.
Yeah. You can read into that.
You can read into that. And has anyone made any progress?
Yeah, I can't get into if we've made progress, if they've made progress, because that's like straight up some national security stuff. And, so you have the 67-page amendments, right? It's called the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023, known as the Schumer Amendment. The co-sponsors were Young, Gillibrand, Rubio, Rounds, and Young. And, kudos for those senators for stepping up to the plate, because they know this is real. I know what meetings that they've had with certain other individuals that are, even more credible than myself. And so this act, which is like super important, is currently in conference as we speak in Capitol Hill. So the amendment is wrapped in something called the fiscal year 2024 National Defense Authorization Act. So that is the act that funds the military basically every year, right? So it's an amendment within this bill. And the act is really long, but the main meat of it is about halfway through the act. It talks about a presidential panel or agency, which is 9-person, and a controlled UAP disclosure plan that's 6 years in length, conceivably from 2024 to 2030. In this panel, and you can read this is public law, anybody can read this. They want a scientist, economists, sociologists, etc. It's kind of like who you would want to help craft the plan for the president.